last time. Kill it if you have to.
All right. I guess I should start off by saying, what's up, guys? I went to see It Chapter 2 after work today. It's really stupid of me, but I felt I should cash in on the hype while I can. I legitimately thought this out. I was like, it's been out since Friday, and as I looked at buying tickets or whatever, I noticed there were only 7 people who had bought anything and sectioned off their seats or whatever. So I was like, oh, it's the hype surrounding this movie is dying down. So I just wanted to go ahead and see it while I could and get this out to you all. I honestly didn't remember a whole lot of the first part, other than, I remember more, strangely, of the 90s TV version because of having watched it in college. Somehow that stuck with me more than the first part of the new movie. But stuff kind of came... It's weird, because a whole central plot point to the movie is that they lost their memories of what happened as they left town and kind of split up. And it feels like, in a way, that it's kind of how it felt watching the movie. I didn't remember a whole lot, but as the movie progressed, I started to remember more and more of what happened between all the characters and stuff and their dynamics. I think it was good. I should probably start off by saying that. It was a good quality movie. The effects and visuals were awesome. The acting was pretty good. Way better than the 90s movie. But I do have some complaints, but most of it's good. I guess, if anything, I should start by saying it felt different from the first part from what I remember, but not as different or as jarring as the 90s movie felt when it went to the adult part. It worked very well splitting it up into 2 movies instead of having it be this 2-part thing where the vast majority of it is the kids, and then there's this itty bitty part where it's the adults kind of meeting up and then killing it. In the 90s movie, it just felt very rushed on the second half, and it made me not like any of the adult characters. Granted, I didn't really seem to enjoy any of those actors anyway. But in the new movie, they have high quality actors, people that you can recognize from other stuff, and they all did a good job. It was different. I guess what I need to say is that it's a horror movie with, in a way, it's not even really that insanely horrific or anything. It's a mishmash or a combination of a horror and a comedy movie, and it works really well, but it's weird. I feel as somebody who is different to horror, for me, I usually don't get scared of movies because they've all kind of become very formulaic, and I have a different threshold for fear when it comes to stuff that's in a movie. And just to give a little weird backstory to me that people might not know, I don't tend to do any substances or anything. That's never been me, but other than drinking occasionally. But one time back in high school, I had a really bad cough, and I had codeine-based cough syrup or whatever, and I accidentally took too much one night, which is really pathetic that this is where this is going. But I stayed up way later than I should have after taking that, and I decided, because I loved the movie, that I was going to watch Silent Hill. And I had a bad trip. I thought the girl was dragging me down into the coal fire mine thingy or whatever from the movie, and it was terrifying. in a way that like almost nothing has been able to scare me since. But what I will say is that I tend to find video games a lot scarier than movies. Movies don't tend to scare me because I can distance myself from the characters. I don't ever get, like, I get invested, but I don't get truly immersed, if that makes sense, because there's no direct connection there. But when I play video games, I get terrified. Like, I wish I still had PT on my PS4, because that would have been a funny playthrough just because it freaked me out when I was playing. I noped the hell out of that one when I was playing it. But anyway, so my point is, typically I don't really find movies all that scary anymore, especially because a lot of them are jump scary. Like that's the whole thing, and it has been since maybe the last time I went to see a horror movie in theaters, which was The Conjuring way back when that came out, and I thought that movie was stupid as hell. Like I remember everybody was screaming and jumping in the theater, and like I just sat there and just, like it was very cheesy and formulaic to the point that I could tell when things were about to happen. And I'm using this to kind of segue into how I feel about it, which is strange because it doesn't quite hit on what I like in a horror movie to the fullest degree, which is like a slow creeping, building suspense horror, like psychological horror thing, but it gets close. It's like there's still jump scares, but it's like slow jump scares, if that makes any sense. Like it's coming, but then it happens, and like I'll be honest, like there were a couple times I jumped a little bit because I get startled by it, but it's not like there's not like a true fear. Like I won't go to bed and have nightmares tonight based on that, like I would something that's very deep and psychological. And like video games tend to have this pacing to them when it's a horror game. Wow, my hat looks really weird on camera. Where it's like creeping and makes you think more and more and more, kind of like the way all this stuff would have freaked me out as a kid, because there was always that, like when you're growing up and you have like cousins or friends or whatever, they'll see a scary movie before you and they'll tell you about it, and then you just start picturing the stuff in your head. Like I remember I think I saw a picture of Freddy Krueger growing up or something before I ever saw Nightmare on Elm Street. And like I went to sleep one night and I just like would picture his eyes, and it was just really creepy seeing something like that in pitch black. I think the same sort of thing kind of happened when my cousins described 28 Days Later before I actually saw it, which is funny because now I love those movies just for being like an intense zombie-esque movie. But my point is, there's a certain, like when you grow up, there's a certain flow that just like you understand movies and stories on a different level, and it makes it really hard to be intimidated or scared by things if you start to realize that. Basically, it broke the illusion or whatever. Towards like now, I have a really hard time suspending my disbelief when I go into a movie. I'm not saying I'm sitting there going or whatever like my old boss used to say people would do at nerdy like comic movies, but because I usually just sit there and enjoy those. But I'm just saying that I don't tend to lose my head over it. Like I always am in the mindset of, well, this can't happen to me, so why should I be terrified of it? Which I think is why I also prefer, like, other than psychological horror, I think I also prefer, like, gritty or more realistic horror where it's not about ghosts or anything that's going to pop up and scare you for, like, 2 seconds and then it's gone. And that's another thing. The whole, like, creeping, suspenseful, like, psychological elements I'm talking about, the reason those are scary and truly scary to me is because they stick with you. They hang there. It stays in the air for a while. Like, you're thinking about this constantly. It's not just a, and then it's gone, you know? Like, jump scares and ghost movies are hard for me to get freaked out by because as soon as the thing shows up on camera, it's gone. And you almost usually never see it again throughout the entire movie. They're very, use what you have and then throw it away. Like, it's over. And I just can't get down with that. So it, for me, was a very interesting movie because it kind of bridges the gap. There are jump scares, but it's not like this tool so much. It's like it paces the story out in a way. I mean, there were some that just didn't feel like that they were entirely necessary, but overall, it felt like it was to keep the wheels turning and get you to a certain point, which made it very, in a way, suspenseful. Like you're concerned about where the characters are going to be, rather than it just being a, a body count movie or I don't know, a quick one and done, I'll forget it, but it'll make 1,000 sequels to cash in kind of movie. It had a set story, and I think that's what's very important. Which, to be fair, it's Stephen King, so it should have a very set story, I would think. But my point is just that it does interesting things where it bridges the gap between very like modern cliche horror stuff, which is the jump scare stupid bullshit that we all hate and some people love for some reason, because I guess they like anxiety more than fear, which I already have severe anxiety, so I hate it. It just is annoying. It doesn't do anything to truly make me like terrified. It just makes me mad when I have stuff like that pop up and happen. But it also does certain things that make you like not believe what's going on, which, I mean, that's obvious. It's like a demon monster thing that preys on fear. So that's how it should be. It should warp reality in its own ways. It was 3 hours. I don't know if I mentioned that before, which I didn't know going in. It felt very long, but like felt okay. Like it was paced well enough to where I didn't notice it until I got out of the theater, and I was just like, holy hell, what happened to my night? But like I guess what I'm saying is, even though the original was like 4 hours, I think, split between the two parts, it was like weird having a 3 hour movie for something that was just a sequel that ends the story for the most part. Like there shouldn't be an It 3 unless they're changing things. But it doesn't feel like this grandiose, gigantic masterpiece type movie. Like it doesn't feel like Endgame. It doesn't feel like it should be this huge long movie, but it was good. So I guess my complaints are just that while it's not quite what I wanted it to be, it was pretty good. And it might have just been a little too long in some ways. And in others, it seems like it could have fleshed some things out. I guess what I'm saying is they could have taken certain elements out and put more in that would have strengthened the story instead of just been kind of like an extra, hey, this scary-ish thing is going to happen, or this character is going to die or get hurt or chased or something. Like, it seems like they could have focused more on the central characters rather than side characters at certain points. It added a lot. It like went back to, like, it jumped back and forth in the timeline to show you things that happened after the first movie with the kids, which was kind of cool. Because I don't think they did that in the original, if I remember correctly. So I always like when movies add stuff, like how I described with Aladdin, how it was pretty different. I mean, it was the same story, but there were different elements that they added in, whereas I didn't really like the new Lion King because it was the same exact movie, just with like slight tweaks. So I really liked that about this movie. It felt new. It felt like it should be coming out now and not like some terrible remake, like how in the mid 2000s pretty much, and to some degree now, everything is like a remake. Like a few months back I saw there was a trailer for Midway, which I never saw the original. My dad loves it, but and it looked pretty cool, so I was like, maybe I should watch the original. And then on this one there was a trailer for Black Christmas, which I'm guessing is a remake of the 70s slasher movie or whatever. I think it was in the 70s, but anyway, my point is everything's a remake. And this somehow felt like, even though it's a remake, it felt kind of new. I mean, there were differences and extra plot and stuff that wasn't there in the beginning, which is why I didn't really like the original all that much. But I like the newer ones. But I won't sit here and tell you it's the scariest movie you're going to see, because I personally don't believe that. a lot of people have fears of clowns, so sure, it'll be scary for you. But as someone who's just not super phobia based in their fears, it's a good movie, but it's not the scariest movie you're ever gonna see. So I guess with that, I guess that's my whole point, is that it's a good movie. So go see it if you haven't. I'm sure it'll be in theaters for at least a month or so from here on out, since it just came out Friday. But yeah, anyway, there's a quick little review. I'll see you all in probably a week when I see another movie, I would assume. But anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. So for now, this is me signing off. It Too is a good movie. Go see it if you want to. In theaters now till probably a month from now. Okay, see ya.